Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to walk you through setting up a full stack project with a React Frontend and a Node.js Backend. We'll create both parts from scratch and connect them so they work together. This will just be a solid starting point for any full stack app. So let's get into it. So what I've already done is to create a new folder. I call this one React Node project and I open it up with VS Code. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is create our backend folder, and inside of that we create our server entry file. You can call this whatever you want. I'm just going to stick with server.js for now. So in order to get started with our backend, we can simply open up the terminal, navigate into our backend folder, and run the command npm init-y, which will basically just create a package JSON file and answer yes to the default questions. Okay, so let's head to our created file. And since we're going to use the ES modules for our project and we want to use the import-export syntax, we need to set the type to module here. So in our scripts, I'm going to create a new command to start the server. We can get rid of the default test script for now. The start script will run Node in watch mode. This makes sure the server automatically restarts whenever we make changes. So kind of like hot reloading, but for the backend. Just make sure you're using at least Node version 18 because that's when the watch flag was introduced. We're also adding the env file flag, which tells Node where to load our environment variables from. In our case, we'll use that for the port number. And finally, we're running server.js, which will be the main entry point for our backend logic. I'm also going to install the Express in course package. There we go. Now I'll head over to our server entry file where we'll write the backend logic. We'll start by importing Express from the Express package and course from course. Then we'll create our app by calling Express. For now, I'm going to hardcode the port number to 5050. We'll move that into a .env file in just a minute. Next, we'll use the course middleware. This allows our frontend to talk to the backend without running into cross-origin issues. We'll also add the built-in Express.js middleware so our app can handle JSON in incoming requests. To start the server, we call app.listen and set our port. Now let's quickly create the .env file where we set our port variable. And now we can integrate it in our code with the process.env.port. So great, now let's give it a quick run and see if it works. I'm going to run npm run start. And nice, we're getting the server is running message in the console. And when I hit save, you can see the server restarts automatically, which means the watch mode is also working. Okay, so the next step would be to set up our frontend folder. So I'm going to create the frontend folder here. Open up a new terminal. Head into the frontend folder and create our project by running npm create Vite at latest, and our entry point is our current folder. We are going to work with React and JavaScript for now. Okay, cool. So the project got created. In order to see our project working, we just first of all going to say npm install. And then say npm run dev to run our project. So the next step would be to set up our routes for the backend. So I'm starting with get route. We will just say /API/message for now, which will take the request and the response. And for now, we'll just quickly respond with JSON object saying hello from the backend. So next, I'm going to do the same for the post route. We're going to use the same structure. So /API/message. And then we're going to destructure the name, which we will get from body, which we will send from the front end. And maybe just console logging it for now. And also responding with a message object saying hello. Including the name. The data was received. So the next step would be to just set up our front-end code. So I'm heading to the app.jsx file. So first I'll remove all the boilerplate code. We don't need that. And since this tutorial is not front-end focused, I'm just going to copy paste our front-end code for now. And just that you see what it's going to look like. So we're going to have just like a basic application, nothing special, not really caring about CSS or any other styling. We will just have a simple button for our GET request and an input field for our POST request where we can send the inputs value to the backend. So in our code, we will basically just have two functions. One is the fetch message and one for our POST request, which will be called send message. We're also going to have three different states. So one is basically from the message we get back from our backend with the GET request. One is for the name. This will just be the name that the user sets in the input field. And a third state for our response message. This will be the response we're going to get from the POST request. So I'm just starting with our GET request now. Just making a small comment here. So this will be the function to fetch the data. I'm just going to call it fetch message, which will be an async function. I'm going to wrap our logic in a try catch block just to make sure we're catching all errors and just logging the error for now. Then in our try block, we're going to say response will be equal to await, and we're going to fetch our backend route, which will be the localhost 5050 /API/message. So this is the one we set earlier in our backend server file. So since we're using fetch, we will also need to await the response.json. If you're working with Axios, for example, instead of fetch, you won't need that. But in our case, we will need to get the data from it. And in case we get some data back, we will just simply set the message state to our data.message. So for our post request, we're going to set up the send message function. Which will also be an async function with a try and catch block. Same procedure, we're catching the error. And for our try block, we're also going to get the response from the same route as before. But since we're handling a post request, we're going to set the options object with the method set to post. And for the headers, we're going to set the content type to application/JSON. And the body will just be our stringified name, which will basically just be the input that the user types. And again, whatever we get back from the server, we're going to store it in a data variable. And if we get something back, we will set the response message state to the data.message. Okay, then let's just test it out for now. So we're going to head over to our front end and just click the button, get message from backend. And there we go, hello from backend. And let's also try our post request. Let's just say Jane for the name, hit the send name to backend button, and there you go. Hello Jane, data was received. Great, so everything seems to work. As I said, just a simple example, just to get familiar with Express and the front-end back-end integration. We can also check out our network requests in DevTools. So let me just refresh the page for now. We can open up the DevTools. Let's just try that again. Hit the Get Request button. And we see under Network, we get our message. We can even open that and see the GET request with a 200 OK response. Same thing for the POST request. Let's hit send. And there you go. We also get the message object back with the post as request method and a 200 response. Alright, so that wraps up today's tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.